and welcome to GameSack. In this episode, we're going to take a nice in-depth look at the Ys series, a series that I feel just does not get enough attention. Like, almost nobody on YouTube really talks about it.
Well, it's a great series, Joe, that's for sure, but I'm not sure you're pronouncing it correctly. I mean, it's...
Come on, dude, it's Ys. How are you supposed to pronounce that?
Well, I don't know, but I think that's wrong, and I think... I watched a video from the Happy Console Gamer, and he pronounced it completely different. And
he did?
He
I'm
did.
pretty sure he pronounced it Ys.
No, I'm sure. I mean,
I'll call him. Okay.
What, do you have his phone number?
Of course I do.
Oh, that's strange.
Hey.
Hello, can I speak to Johnny Millennium, aka Happy Console Gamer, please?
Well, if it isn't GameSack.
Hey, yeah, we're doing an episode right now, actually, on the Ys series, and we're wondering if we could get, like, maybe a little bit of your input on it.
I've never heard of that. What game is that?
Ys. You know that game with Aaron? Well, actually, in some games, I think he's called Adol.
Oh, you mean Ys. Yeah, of course I know that game.
Ys?
No, Ys.
Oh.
It's awesome. I'm just so happy other people are talking about this game, like, finally. Because nobody's ever talking about it.
It's called Ys.
Dude, you just hung up on him.
They actually hung up on me. GameSack. Kids these days. I'm gonna go make a chicken sandwich.
And let's take a look at the Ys series.
Good old rude Joe.
He does have a lot of really, really good games at his place, though. I remember when the first Ys game was coming to the Sega Master System. It was after Phantasy Star, and it was billed as the next great RPG. Just to be on the safe side, I decided to rent it first. It was pretty cool, but really weird at the same time. You don't swing a sword. Instead, you bump into enemies kind of like hide glide. Your chances of not getting hurt and dealing a powerful blow increase if you bump into them slightly off-center. The game was also full of old English-style talk. "Whilst thou keep what I tell thee a secret," and so on. In this game, the main hero, Adol, or Adol as some of the games pronounce it, is actually called Aaron due to some shoddy translation. The game is tremendously slow and it takes forever to level your character up. Fortunately, in Ys games, if you just stand still, your health slowly regenerates. This doesn't work in the dungeons though. Despite being slow, it was kind of fun. The graphics are okay for the system. The music was pretty good, though it sounded maybe a little ear-piercing. I had no idea that the original music had been composed by Yuzo Koshiro, or even who he was at the time. Now in Japan, this game offered an FM soundtrack which sounded so much better than what we heard over here. It's not ear-piercing at all, and it sounds really nice, especially for a Master System game. Ys was also released for the Famicom in Japan. For whatever reason, they changed some of the graphics around and even some of the music. It plays pretty well though. Ys II also came out on the Famicom in Japan. The final chapter, yeah right. This is the sequel which we never see as a standalone game over here in the States. The graphics and the sounds are pretty much the same quality as the first game on the system. This game added some magic attacks to the series. To be honest, I like the first game more as this one relies a little bit too much on mazes, but it's still an awesome game. There was also a really weird version of Ys for the Sharp X68000 computer in Japan. They changed just about everything they could change. Everything is just so creepy looking. It looks more like a westernized PC game, but this was released on a computer that itself never made it out of Japan. The music is okay, I guess. There's certainly never a shortage of enemies trying to kill you. Alright, enough of this. Let's move on to something better.
And now, the mystery unfolds.
Ys Book 1 and 2 then came to the TurboGrafx-16 CD-ROM, and quite honestly, this is how the game should be remembered. none of the other remakes can quite convey the sheer awesomeness that this one does. This was one of the first CD games ever released over here, and it totally blew me away. I mean, this was a time when Nintendo games were the norm, and that's what we were used to. And then to come and see and hear something like this, wow. It has amazing cutscenes that still impress me to this day. They actually used professionals to do the voice acting here. The likes of Alan Oppenheimer, Thomas Hayden Church, Michael Bell, and others do the voices, and they do a great job.
I do love this.
And of course, the music is just outstanding. I mean, really, what a great way to be introduced to CD gaming. This game still has the best arrangements of these particular tunes that I've ever heard. After you beat Ys I, an awesome cutscene takes you straight to the beginning of Ys II, where you're actually now in the land of Ys. In fact, this is all presented as a single game. You can't get to Ys II until you play through Ys I first. Like I said earlier, this game is slightly more maze-centric, but it's still amazing, especially with these production values. This game also features the most ridiculous password in any game ever. I mean, just look at that. 60 characters you need to input, upper and lowercase letters, numbers, and even symbols. It's just insane. Gah! Fortunately, the game saves 5 slots into your CD system's memory if you have the space available, so you probably won't ever need to deal with these. This is the definitive version of Ys Book 1 and 2 that everyone should enjoy. Yes, everyone. You, your mom, your dad, your little sister, your unborn children, everyone. Ys I and 2 were remade for a ton of different platforms. The first one that I played was the Saturn version called Falcom Classics, which was released only in Japan. Ys I was on Falcom Classics 1 along with Dragon Slayer and Xanadu, and Ys II is on Falcom Classics 2 along with something else which I can't even pronounce. They look really nice, and overall they're pretty faithful to the layout of the TurboGrafx version. You can now walk and fight diagonally, and that totally rocks, let me tell you. Everything is in Japanese, but I still knew what to do because I played through the Turbo version about 1 billion times. The music is great, but it's nowhere near as good as the Turbo version. And the graphics, while really nice and very detailed, just seem kind of muted in color. There was also a Nintendo DS version called Legacy of Ys Book 1 and 2. It featured new artwork and some goofy 3D polygon graphics. They really don't look very good. This game didn't really click with me very well as I stopped playing in the middle of Book 2. And finally, we have Ys I and II Chronicles for the PSP. This one has some of the same art from the DS version, but 2D graphics instead this time. It also has the same added gameplay elements of the DS version, but it looks and plays so much nicer. Plus, it has a nicely arranged soundtrack that you can choose to listen to if you want. You know, I have a feeling this is not the last time we'll see a new version of Ys I and 2.
Ys III, Wanderers from Ys, came out on the TurboGrafx-16 CD in 1990. I was really looking forward to this one after seeing how awesome Ys I and 2 were on the Turbo. But they made some big design and presentation changes here. The game now is completely side-scrolling. You jump and swing your sword, and there's only one town in the entire game. At first, the scrolling seems pretty choppy, and Joe tells me that most of the game only runs at 15 frames per second, and I've got to believe him because I don't know. But to be honest, you get used to it, and it doesn't really hinder the gameplay as the control is very responsive. The intro cutscenes have some amazing graphics, but the game is so poorly translated that the narration identifies this blonde guy as Adol. This is actually just the dude that sealed the evil away generations ago, and now the same demon is back. Anyway, the music is amazing. Maybe it's even better than Ys Book 1 and 2? It's hard to say, but the music here really rocks. What doesn't rock is the voice acting. Instead of hiring professionals like they did for the first game, they went with amateurs and it sounds really stiff, like they're reading from a script. Not that we would ever do anything like that here on GameStack. The game is also really short. If you know what you're doing, you can easily beat it in just a few hours. Still though, it's a really fun game and we both like playing through it every now and again. And the password is even longer than Ys Book 1 and 2 with 64 characters. Enjoy that one.
Monsters! They came out of nowhere! Mayor Grady is still trapped in the mine! Someone must rescue him!
Pretty much around the same time, Ys III came out on the Super Nintendo. Now, it obviously doesn't quite stand up to the TurboGrafx version, but hey, at least the scrolling is smooth. The music is alright, but I expected better from my beloved Super Nintendo. Also, sometimes the hit detection seems a bit funny, but maybe that's just me. Again, this game can be played through in a few hours if you're familiar with everything. What's kind of nice here is that the game has 15 save slots. Well, I mean, I guess it's nice if you like save slots. Then there's the Genesis version by Renovation. Again, the scrolling is smooth, but the color seems to be less than the other versions. But this version has some surprisingly good sounding music. In fact, I have to admit it, I like how it sounds more than the Super Nintendo version. I'm sorry, Nintendo. This game controls really well, and aside from some of the color, everything is pretty much how it should be for a cartridge game. There was also a version for the Sharp X68000 computer. It's pretty much like the 16-bit versions with nice scrolling and decent music. But the packaging is awesome. It comes with a cool book that will make you wish you could read Japanese, as well as some other cool little Ys-related knickknacks. There was even a Famicom version of Ys III. The graphics and sound are actually pretty good for an 8-bit system. It's missing the multi-layered scrolling, but otherwise it's pretty much all intact. The game itself is typical Ys III with really nothing new to report. It's a good game if you don't mind the Japanese text. In 2004, Taito released an upgraded version of Ys III on the PlayStation 2 in Japan. The artwork and graphics were all totally redone, though the layout and gameplay remains pretty faithful to the original versions. As you can see, the graphics look fantastic with tons of color and great artwork. Unfortunately, the game rarely ever scrolls. Most of the time, Adol just runs from one screen to the next with quick fades in between. I'm not sure why this is because some of the screens scroll just fine. The music in this version is pretty good, though not as nice as the TurboGrafx version. Still, it's a fun game for the same reason the other versions are fun. Of course, nobody ever bothered to bring it out over here, even as a budget title. Ys III was eventually remade and retitled Ys the Oath in Felghana. This is the PSP version which was released over here by Exceed. The game now has 3D graphics and plays like the more modern games in the series. They also added lots of stuff and lengthened the areas to explore quite a bit. You definitely won't be beating this game in a single evening. This is a good remake. I like it a lot as it keeps what made the original game fun and added a lot to make it feel fresh. It also feels right at home on the PSP. The graphics are fine for the system, but some of the polygons here and there seem a bit rough. The music is still outstanding though. It's rearranged and I'm not sure which music I like more, the TurboGrafx CD version or this. Both are great, really. Check this game out.
You're right, Dave. That was a pretty big change up in the whole play mechanics for the Ys series.
Oh my god, going from a top-down game to a side-scrolling game?
Yeah, it was still really fun though. I really enjoyed it,
Very
even
good.
though it was like crazy short.
Oh yeah, short but sweet.
Yeah, except for the PSP version, which is not short.
No.
Anyway, let's take a look at the rest of the games in the Ys series.
Tasty chicken sandwich. Tasty chicken sandwich.
I don't like this table here. It's in my way.
Tasty.
Ys IV, The Dawn of Ys, was released in Japan on the PC Engine CD, and of course we never got to see it over here in the US. This game actually takes place before Ys III. You get to visit a few of the same locations from the original Ys game, and seeing them again really hits me right in the nostalgia. The opening of the game is actually an awesome looking cutscene of the final battle from Ys II. An English translation and voice dub was done by Burnt Lasagna and Nightwolf, and it's really good and finally makes the game accessible to English-speaking players.
You still don't get that there's nothing you can do against us, do you?
I'll just kill him now!
Really, thanks to everyone involved for doing this. Playing and even hearing this game in English makes the game so much better for me. The story is nice, though not quite as epic as the original game. The gameplay is pretty much the same, but lots of stuff has been refined and enhanced. There's now menu shortcuts if you have a 6-button controller, for example. There also seems to be more cutscenes here, but again, not quite as epic as the original, but still awesome. The music is fantastic, of course. Lots of new and a few rearranged tunes will accompany you on your quest. Overall, it's an amazing game. If you have the Japanese version, be sure to download the patches that turn this into English. The link is in the description. Oh god, I never thought I'd hear myself say that. Ys IV was also released on the Super Famicom in Japan, and it's actually a completely different game than the PC Engine Ys IV. This one is called Mask of the Sun, and it has a different storyline. It plays well enough, and it looks and sounds okay, but it just feels gimpy compared to the PC Engine CD version. If you like a somewhat inferior quality to your Ys games, then this is the perfect game for you. A remake of Ys IV called Ys, Memories of Celceta will be released for the PS Vita in September. And yes, I will buy a Vita just to play it.
Ys V was also left in Japan, and it's kind of strange. Originally released for the Super Famicom in 1995, it begins looking and sounding just like another Super Nintendo RPG. You're looking for the lost city of Kefin that has mysteriously reappeared or something like that. I don't know Japanese, so I can only guess what's going on. I know I could learn it, but goddamn I'm lazy. In this one, you have a button for attack, jump, and even one dedicated to brandishing your shield to block enemy attacks. Kind of weird for an Ys game. Like Ys III, this one is pretty short. Unfortunately, it's nowhere near as fun. The graphics are decent, but they do seem kind of alien to the Ys series. The music is alright, but again, it's probably the low point of the series as far as musical composition goes. Still, there are a couple of good tracks here and there. As of the making of this episode, there still exists no English translation for the game. That's fine by me, as it's just so disconnected from the rest of the series and it doesn't even hold up as its own game. Ys V was released for the PlayStation 2 in 2006, again by Taito, only in Japan of course. Is this one better than the Super Famicom version? Yeah, it definitely is. The game now sports 3D graphics and looks more like the modern Ys games for the PSP, but don't get your hopes up too high. The combat is pretty stiff and there's a big lag from when you press the attack button to when your sword actually hits an enemy. It's too bad because I felt like this could have finally done Ys V some justice. Maybe someday someone will remake Ys V well enough so that it can be released over here in English. I mean, is that so much to ask? Exceed? Really? Please? Ys VI, also known as the Ark of Napishtim or Napishtim? Who thinks of these names? Well, anyways, this game was released for the PS2 as well as the PSP in 2006 by Konami. Anyway, Adol washes ashore and is nursed back to health by the local village of cat people. Stuff happens and you know what, he's off to save the day again. This was actually the first modern Ys game that we've played. You run around in a 3D space, swinging your sword and jumping, just happy to be alive, and this is all done with a slightly angled overhead view. I think this works pretty well and is a good progression in gameplay for the series to take. The graphics are fairly good and the music is great too. The PSP version is good, however it doesn't run as smoothly as its big brother, but that doesn't seem to hinder the gameplay at all as it plays really well on the PSP. There's also far fewer voices, but that's okay. Still, the PS2 version would be the one to get if you had to decide between the two. Either way, you'll get a good game that will make you forget about that crusty old Ys V.
Ys VII came out in 2009 and prompted me to buy a PSP just to play it. And you know what? I'm glad I did, as this game is really good and it even has a nice story. You begin the game visiting a town with your companion Dogi, who is only a side character in the previous games. But once this game gets going, you can actually play as Dogi. In fact, you can switch between him and Adol or any other character in your party at any time with the tap of the circle button. You can even change the 3 default members of your party at any time once you've acquired them. Now obviously, some characters will be more suited to defeat certain types of enemies than other characters. Each character also has their own life meter as well as weapons that you'll have to procure for them. The gameplay takes place with the same slightly angled overhead view as the other modern Ys games. In this one, you can no longer jump. It's no big deal, really. This game is right at home on the PSP, and it just seems like a great system to play an Ys game on. The graphics are slightly improved over Ys VI, and there's always lots of action going on as the other characters you're using will help fight the monsters on their own. The music is great too. Not as amazing as Ys I, II, or III, but hey, it's still good. If you have a PSP and you like action RPGs, you really need to own this game. And those are all of the Ys games that we have. Unfortunately, we can't cover every single Ys game. I mean, there's just no way, especially all the ones that are in Japan. There's a ton of them. But that's what we have, and we hope it was informative for you.
And enlightening.
That too.
Yes, check it out. It's a great series.
And thank you for watching GameSack.
Man, that was a good chicken sandwich. It stinks in here like freaking BO. Like a GameSack episode. They couldn't have been here, could they? What the hell? I know my game shelf so much.
So what'd you score, man?
Dude, I got myself Ys 4 for the PC Engine.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, tell me about it. What'd you get?
Oh, I got Ys 3 Wanderers from Ys complete in the box.
That is
I
so
didn't
awesome.
have this before.
Now you do,
Yeah,
buddy.
that's right.
Now you do, yeah.
I'll get you, GameSack! I'll get you, you son of a bitch!